At the end of the day, I believe there are two types of media: art and slop. Now, that's not to say that all art is good and all slop is bad. Godzilla Minus One is an endearing film about a man's life post war and how he navigates his PTSD, which is, of course, represented as a monstrous behemoth. And then you have MonsterVs. Godzilla, which is like the movie equivalent of smashing WWE figures together. Both of these movies are super good in my opinion, but for completely opposite reasons. Kengan Ashura falls into the slop but good category. It is 52 episodes of brutal, non-stop action. And when I mean non-stop, I mean that literally. There's no charging up spirit bombs, there's no long-winded explanation of stand abilities, there's no omniscient Baki narrator explaining that Yujiro Hanma can bypass Infinity because he was playing Salty Cracker with Mosquitos in Africa 30 years ago. Each episode is just 20 minutes of roided out dudes ruthlessly beating the shit out of each other, and I love it. So yeah, I just want to quickly talk about what I liked and what I thought was kind of mid. So basically, in the modern day, Fortune 500 companies participate in what is essentially gladiatorial combat to prove which corporation has the best stock or whatever. Our main character and combatant is Tokita Oma, and then he has his 50-something-year-old Japanese salaryman sidekick named Yamashita, who's kind of just randomly thrown into this world by his boss, who basically tells Yamashita to be Oma's handler. And then every episode after that is just two guys beating the shit out of each other until there's only one left, tournament style. And that's the whole show. Not exactly nuanced writing or anything like that, but damn is it entertaining. So yeah, elephant in the room. Yes, this is a 3D animated show. That being said, it's one of the nicer looking ones. I wouldn't say it looks good, because that would be a fucking lie, but it's not a total eyesore like Berserk 2016 or X-Arm. Now, the main draw of this show, which I mentioned earlier, is the combat. This might be one of the most realistic fighting animes ever made. The choreography is amazing, every punch feels like it has weight behind it, the grapples feel suffocating, and the fighters themselves are just completely savage. Every fight, without fail, begins with both dudes breaking their nose before they try to gouge out each other's eyes and break their arms and shit. Great stuff. I'd say 50% of the fights look and feel like a rotoscoped MMA fight with all of the grittiness that comes with it. And then another 40% are I guess this fighter in a vacuum could learn this technique that could train his finger strength to rend flesh, but it wouldn't be, super practical, but I can suspend my disbelief. And then honestly, the other 10% is just anime horseshit, I'm gonna be honest. My favorite of the characters are Metsuba, who's this mercenary who only goes for the lethal option, so all of his fights are super nasty. He frame one always goes for the eye, so all of his fights are super fucking cool, not a single dud. Then there's this Japanese pro wrestler called Sekibayashi. Honestly, his fighting style is just, I'm gonna fucking hit you. Not a lot going on there. I just love him because he has such a fun and bombastic personality. Also, his fights are super good, even if his fighting style is kind of generic. And then Gowlin, he's the best boxer in the world in this verse, and his fights really exemplify the choreography in this show. Also, all of these guys got that shit on. And speaking of fashion, outside of the aforementioned, these characters have ass fits. But honestly, I kind of fucking love it. They'll show you a guy with the lamest tattoo sleeve of your life, a gray hoodie with a skull on it or some other similar shit, and a buzz cut. Just an absolutely sauceless creature. Even the main character kind of falls into this. Oma, when he's not fighting, just wears jeans and one of those shitty washed out tie-dyes. But the thing is, I've seen dudes who dress exactly like that at my 7-Eleven. So honestly, the character design is kind of genius. So yeah, the show is 90% combat, and the combat is really good. Honestly, I couldn't really give it higher praise. First off, this show quite possibly might have the worst female cast in all of anime, which is crazy because anime historically has not been kind to its female representation. Gun to my head, I cannot remember a single one of the women's names, but the cast basically boils down to this: aloof secretary who is randomly bashful, abrasive CEO lady, little sister character, bullshit psycho bitch character who made every scene she was in worse. This like one woman who was like the puppet master to this evil cop who low-key looks like Kuryu from fucking Tekken. But plot twist, she's actually the puppet and being controlled by the fucking police. CEO lady who has to like drop out round 1 because she was menaced. Announcer lady, sexy nurse, bizarre Freudian, maternal bisexual CEO, and gang of prostitutes. Yeah, nah, this show isn't exactly passing the Bechdel test. On the topic of uninteresting characters, I haven't really talked about the main characters, and that's because I fucking hate them, dude. There's like a really fine line, in my opinion, between being stoic and boring as shit. And Oma just like cannonballs right into like the lamest possible fucking main character. He has like no personality other than being like quiet and wanting to be strong. And then like his businessman sidekick, oh my fucking god, dude. This guy is the fucking worst, dude. He's like the shittiest parts of post-time skip Usopp. He's this shrill, spineless, shrimp dick loser who gets no fucking bitches to the point that his wife left him and he's a bum-ass father who hasn't seen his kids in years. And despite being the sidekick, I swear to God, he has more screen time than Oma if we ignore like the fucking flashbacks to Oma's like childhood or whatever the fuck. Which is fucking nuts. And then another fucking character who sucks a lot of fucking ass is the main antagonist, the Fang of Mitsuda. This guy is so fucking boring, dude. He has no goal other than wanting to be the strongest, which, you know, is fine if you have charisma, and he just fucking doesn't. Additionally, he looks so fucking ass, dude. And I know I said I like how goofy the drip is, but his design just does not translate into 3D. He wears this like weird skin-tight bodysuit that just looks gross and kind of fucking awkward on him. This only applies to him. No other character runs into this issue. I don't know what was going on. And he has like this horrible fucking haircut too that really pissed me off. I don't know why, to be honest. And worst part though is he acts like a Baki reject. All of the characters are honestly pretty grounded for the most part, with a few pretty big exceptions. But like when this guy's fighting and he like gets serious or whatever the fuck, he puts on this stupid ass fucking smile and it makes him look like a bootleg Yujiro Hanma, man. And honestly, I could forgive all of it if he had a cool dynamic with Oma, but he just fucking doesn't. In the context of the show, they meet each other a week prior and they weren't even in the same fucking room. And like, spoiler alert, I thought like he was gonna be a fake out, honestly, because there were like 3 other dudes who would have been way fucking better as like the final hurdle, you know? There's this like one evil ass guy from Oma's childhood who, if I had to describe him, he was like if you explained the concept of Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter to someone, but like exaggerated the hell out of it. He's just like this evil perverse who low-key gets a boner when he sees the main character fighting. He loses to some random fucking guy, and then Oma and him have like an off-the-book fight where Oma just steamrolls him. Easily one of the worst fights of the show, especially considering like how much build-up there was. And then there's this other guy called like Sen, who reminded Oma of his dead mentor, who he had beef with before he died. Sen lost to the Fang in also one of the shittier fights of the show, which sucks. And then there was this guy Likto, who was kind of like, the way I saw it at least, was being built up as like a blue-style rival to Oma. Honestly, I wish Likto was the fucking protagonist. He's way more interesting, has a way better personality. Regardless, he gets fucking disqualified round 1, dude. God damn. And then like the last point I want to kind of get to is when the show steers away from the combat and goes into backstories, especially with fucking Oma's, it turns into a complete snooze fest. There's very little substance with the stories, with like a few very small exceptions, which is rendered completely moot because we know they're not going to win because they're not the main character. So honestly, who gives a fuck? And since the anime is just this self-contained tournament arc, any sad fucking backstory is not going to come to any meaningful conclusion. To illustrate this point, there's this one part of the show where one of the business CEOs starts a coup and holds all of the other fighters and CEOs as hostage. His plan is immediately stopped by like the fucking like NASDAQ Secret Service or whatever the fuck. And like, here's the thing. No fighters or CEOs were like disqualified or killed because of this event. The arena wasn't like destroyed, so they had to like change locations. The power dynamic between like the companies wasn't altered in any way. There was like no meaningful like blackmail or any shit like that. This plot point lasted over the course of 20 minutes between 2 episodes and achieved nothing. It's basically canon filler. If a fight is not happening, I'd almost recommend watching the show at 2x speed. So yeah, that's Kengan Ashura, a really fun show, and I think that's the best way to describe it. It is pure dopamine release, and I guarantee you will at the very least be entertained by this slop.